Thursday. It is the day before Good Friday. Happy Easter. It is Holy Week. A lot going on, a lot to talk about today. Brendan, got to get you feeling better, the best executive producer on the planet. We'll be joined in just a minute by John Hartwell, recovering. I think he got the staples taken out. He's doing better. ULMAD. John Hartwell will join us. Vince Ferarra will check in as we go along this morning as well. And Bo Carter out in Big 12 country, Dallas, Fort Worth. Long time, one of the better writers and sports information directors that you'll find anywhere. So get pen and paper handy and smash the subscribe button in the bottom right-hand corner on your screen. Subscribe to the show. You'll get alerts every time we come on. Tell your friends, your family, your neighbors, hey, it's a great day to talk sports, SEC, and college basketball because the Sweet 16 starts tonight. We'll be right back.
Sidelines with Rob Brown. Talk sporty to me.
All right, man, we got this round table cranking up, ready to go. Brendan Martin is recovering, trying to get over the flu, the panhandle flu. Got to get him better, but we've got a wild crowd here today. Guys, I love this time of year. Tomorrow is Easter. It's Good Friday. Not a whole lot being done. A lot of people are going to be taking the day off. It's Holy Week. I'm telling you right now, Sweet 16 starts tonight. Basketball, this discussion about basketball, it's incredible. It gets bigger and bigger. And then Monday night, April 8th, after the national championship game is over, it's like, bam, we're right back in that spring practice in college football. I mean, football's never out of season. But we'll go ahead and get started today. John, did they take staples or stitches out of your knee?
Oh, it was staples yesterday. So I'm day 16 post-surgery. I haven't signed up for any marathons yet, but I'm making progress every day.
Well, I mean, is it feeling? Are you able to walk on it and put pressure there?
I made a significant step about 4 days of walker, and I'm on a cane now. And I hope in another week that I'm walking totally on my own. So
yeah,
appreciate you guys.
Absolutely. Now you got one knee. When's the next one going to be replaced?
I hope it doesn't have to.
Okay, good. All right.
Hey,
so
when I
guys,
a one leg jumper, I was a left leg jumper, so I'm hoping that was when that I don't have to get the right one done. And
gotcha.
And if you talk to anybody, to my Mobile crew, sometimes you talk to any of that Mobile crew, they say one leg jumper. Hell, he was a no less Sunday newspaper under his vertical jump.
Hey, when you're 6'7", you can jump out of the gym, and that's an honor. Vince, here we are, Tennessee, closing in Sweet 16. This is an awesome, time of year, and everybody, the narratives are out there. The two SEC teams that are in the Sweet 16, Tennessee has won more SEC basketball championships than anybody, with the exception of the Kentucky Wildcats. After that, it's Alabama, Florida, and Arkansas has won a few since they joined the league, I think 3 back in 92. What's different about this Tennessee team that you've seen in the first 2 games that makes you think they can crack the code and make it to the Final Four. They still got to tonight. It starts with tonight.
Yeah, and tomorrow night for the Vols. But you're right, the Sweet 16 games start tonight. But Tennessee Creighton will be the very last game of the 8 Sweet 16 games, 10:09 p.m. Eastern time. A lot of fans, a lot of media, a lot of coaches complaining about why they're tipping at 10:09 p.m. Eastern time, and that's the scheduled time. That's the it'll probably be later than that. But hey, a great way to close it out because I think it's very evenly matched. And hello from Detroit, Rock City. Got here last night or early this morning. So we'll be making it to the arena and checking out all the interviews and open shoot around like all the NCAA tournament teams are required to do. So here did my show from here. We'll be here as long as the Vols are. But to answer your question, Rob, I think it's winning different ways. They shot as good as they have in a long time against St. Peter's in the first round win at 51%, over 61% in the first half. And they had been shooting throughout the close of the regular season. Every game they had shot 38% or worse. And for the St. Peter's game, it was their best offensive showing in a long time, and they ran away from St. Peter's. Then it went back to struggling from the field. However, they did something that they did not do in Nashville against Mississippi State, and that's continue to stay dialed in and confident and play well defensively. They didn't let their shooting problems and woes affect them on the defensive end. They turned Texas over 17 times, and they were absolutely under the Longhorns' chin so often and made it tough. They controlled the paint. They did all the winning plays. And then they started out 1 of 21 from three-point range in the Texas game.
Yeah.
1 of 21. But they closed 2 of 4, and those were good shots. They weren't shots that were forced in jacking up a bunch of threes. So guess what? At the end, Connect hit a 3, James hit a 3 in that close, and Connect maybe was able to hit his free throws to close out that ball game because he made a 3. So they didn't force it. They still went inside a lot. They missed some bunnies. Just didn't play well offensively, but it was finding a way to win without relying on Connect too much. And while despite not shooting well, that's a positive for them. And then the free throws, which I brought up on your show before, they answered that question, no doubt, as well at the end of that game.
Yeah, and Bo Carter, you think about this big stage. He's up in Detroit, the media, and just the setup for that. From your days as an SID at Mississippi State, the public relations part of it, and also being the communications chief in the Southwest Conference, the Big 12, and so many other events. And one thing I noticed, Vince, about Tennessee, just tried to take him out of the game completely, and that allowed other Tennessee players to step up. And we've kind of dialed in on that Tennessee lost to South Carolina 63-59 when Connect had 31 points. The rest of the team had 28 or whatever. It makes them better, Bo Carter. What about the pressure as Tennessee arrives in Detroit City, Rock City? I like that. But they're used to hosting big events. Tennessee, what's the biggest thing? Rick Barnes. I saw that in the private chat. Very well, from Hickory, North Carolina. And Mark Ham, cousin Mark, up in Knoxville, said he sees him walking in the neighborhood a lot. Said everybody likes Rick Barnes. If he gets to the Final Four, will he put his name in the hat to run for governor of Tennessee? I'm just going to ask now.
Yes. He's like Davy Crockett. He went from Texas back to Tennessee.
That's a good point. I never thought about that. Davy Crockett.
Yeah, reverse. Davy hadn't been, and not Daniel Boone. He was Kentucky, but he passed through to. Vince, I want to tell you, be careful. Don't go for any long walks in downtown Detroit after 4 o'clock.
I've been warned, Bo, but I appreciate it.
I think they invented drive-bys and carjacking in Detroit and East St. Louis.
Unless you're walking with Kid Rock, he's on.
Rod, it's that's right.
That's right.
Take an entourage with you. but Rob, to your point, I can't wait for it. It's going to be such a great deal. the big news down here, and sorry to digress here, but Texas Women's University women's basketball team is going to the Division II championship Friday. They won a 10 small college USA Gymnastics Championships, softball champ, but they've never won an NCAA championship in 123 years as a school. So wishing Coach Beth Gilson and their crew. They're 33-4, and they're 36 out of 37 in free throws in the last 2 games. So maybe we can get them to coach some of the men's teams.
Well, and you talk about free throws, Bo. Men's, women's basketball. John Hartwell, think about this. How many teams? Auburn missed 5 of their last 7 in that game against Yale. And look, officiating, it's what it is. We all know it's always the weather. Doesn't matter what you think. The weatherman's going to tell you what the weather is. There's not a damn thing you can do about it. Now, how you deal with the weather, that's on you. But Chad Baker-Mazara, kind of the him and KD Johnson, the emotional heart and soul of that Auburn team. That's not that kid's fault. I mean, he lost. Look, he should have. I heard Stephen Pearl made a good point. Chad should have fallen down when the guy hit him in the neck and drawn attention, but they didn't do anything about it. But when Chad pushed back, but they still had chances to win that game. Last time I checked, they had 40 minutes to win the game. You as an athletic director, you're a high honor. I mean, again, you came from a great family in Mobile in Baldwin County, most beautiful 32 miles of beaches, maybe in America, that in Destin. But how much interaction can a coach have with officials? And also, are coaches, some of them just on the list that they don't like them and they don't like the way their teams play and they're going to go after them? How does that work?
You would like to say in the purest form that
no, it never happens.
that and officials are objective. That But I tell you this, I think the very best officials to make it about the players. Don't make it about being out there showboating as an official. Getting into it with coaches. They really should not be engaged fans with that. The officials, the best officiated game where you don't question a whole lot what's going on with the officials. Now, there is a human element to it, but I'll throw out something controversial here. I was having this conversation with somebody the other day that would like to scrap all replay. I mean, rewind to, we didn't have replay in anything, and that's just a part of it. I mean, but it slowed the pace and progress of getting. Everybody talks about, we got to have a time. We got to do all this stuff. Stop the damn replays. I mean, that's a human element. At the end of the game, you made a great point, Rob. It's not about one missed free throw turnover. It's about the entire body of the game. Don't put yourself in that position to one play that you're going to hang the entire game on.
Yeah, it is true. John, you might want to reboot. I think we're getting the signals breaking up a little bit. Reboot and then come back on so we can get a better signal with you, because you're making great points. And I don't want to sound like a coach, but John, we both agree. Vince, you think about this Tennessee team. There are habits and there are things that coaches pick up on or officials pick up on with teams, but also leagues have a reputation. And I'm not going to use the exact word Stephen Pearl used, but he was on one of the Birmingham shows this week, and one of my clients, great friend down in Birmingham, sent me that. And he said, look, we beat the split out of each other in the SEC. We played 3 straight games in Nashville, and you go out there, this is a man's league, okay? Auburn took that big 7-footer for Yale, kind of moved him out. Now, you look at Tennessee, Dalton Connect. He comes from University of Northern Colorado, UNC. And by the way, Vince, you'll know this. A lot of people have asked me this. how did so many people miss on evaluating that kid coming out of high school? But what are the keys for Tennessee against Creighton? And then I want to get into after that, I want to get into some football because got a lot of questions that I get them texted. Folks, you can put them in on the YouTube when you type them in. But let's talk about the keys for Tennessee in this game against Creighton, because Creighton's the only team this year since New Year's that has beaten Connecticut, and they beat them in Omaha soundly. That was just one game. Okay.
Right. And that was the largest margin of defeat for UConn. They've only lost 3 times, but that nobody beat them like Creighton did. So that was impressive. Tennessee, they definitely have the respect of Creighton. They recognize how good they are. They don't have that football mentality that I think a lot of fans that have jumped on the bandwagon to support this team. And that's fine, but you can't just look at it and say, well, they don't play football there. They're not a big school, big brand. So, of course, we should beat them. Who are they? Yeah, it's not like that. I mean, they get to the Sweet 16 they've gotten to the Sweet 16 as many times as Tennessee, and they've gone through the last 4 years. So they, with Greg McDermott, they have completely changed their profile. Now they're in a big-time league in the Big East in basketball. So they're legit. Just real quick on a couple of things you had mentioned, I'll get back to your keys. What Stephen Pearl alluded to, that's kind of saying, hey, we ran through a gauntlet in the SEC tournament, didn't help us in the NCAA tournament. Bruce Pearl was kind of alluding to not getting a very good seed and getting sent where they were. We see this very often. If you complain about who you play and your seeding and all this kind of stuff, a lot of times that sends a wrong message to your team, and then you end up losing or getting bounced quickly. So if you don't like it, keep it to yourself and use it as motivation somehow. I wouldn't go public with it.
I was going to say, I agree 110%. As fans, you can say whatever you want, but as a coach, it's like you saying, agreeing with your kid they have too much homework, and a damn thing you can do about it except do the homework. Okay, I totally agree with you, and that's what makes me mad. Carry on. Sorry.
Yeah, and then one other quick point on the officiating. There's a big discrepancy, and this leads into the one of the keys. It's a big discrepancy on fouls. Tennessee is among the leaders in fouling their opponents in the SEC, whereas Creighton hardly ever fouls. The 2 teams that Creighton beat in the tournament so far, Akron and Oregon, have a combined 11 free throws attempted against Creighton. That's it.
Well, in 2 games.
Yep.
I just did the gazindas here. That's 5.5 a game.
Yeah, and Oregon only had 1 at the end of regulation. They almost went the entire regulation without getting to the free throw line 1 time. Creighton doesn't foul, and so if Tennessee fouls and sends Creighton in the line, Creighton makes over 80% of their free throws. So they make the ones they get, and they don't send anyone to the line. So that can really be a big differentiation and some extra bonus points, kind of like special teams mismatch in football. And so that is an important part of this. Tennessee cannot foul and send Creighton to the line, especially if they're not aggressive in getting to the line themselves. Another part of it is defending the 3-point line for Creighton. You know that Creighton has shot almost 1,000 3-pointers this year? Rick, 995 is their total. So they jack up about 31-ish 3-point attempts per game. Now they make almost 11 of them. That's still a high volume of them. And several Tennessee coaches, Rick Barnes, assistant Greg Polinsky, assistant Rod Clark, who we have on our show each week, they've made the comparison to Alabama in the way Creighton plays, because they really rely on that 3-point shot, and they like to play with some tempo. They got a lot of multiple 3-point shooters. So that's the closest comp. If you haven't seen Creighton play and you know SEC basketball, that's the closest thing to the style of play for Creighton. And so how Tennessee defends those multiple three-point shooters while still playing what they typically do in the gaps and not allowing those drives to the basket, that's going to be really important in this game. And I think the last thing, I think outside of Dalton Connect, no one has more on their shoulders for Tennessee's success in this game than Jonas Adu, Tennessee's big.
Yeah.
And with Kalkbrenner, a 7'1" center with size, he's not necessarily super physical, but man, he can score. And they may try to get Jonas Adu in foul trouble. Adu's got to hold his own. They'll need Tobe Awaka, the more physical backup big, to give him really good minutes too and be physical. But Adu cannot get in foul trouble or mismatched. He's got to hold his own and maybe try to get Kalkbrenner in foul trouble. They're not very deep. They only play 7 guys. In fact, they have 3 guys. Here are the minutes for their starters in the NCAA tournament: 89 minutes, 88 minutes, 88 minutes, and 73 minutes for their top 4 players. They had double overtime against Oregon. They don't go very deep, so that's a lot of minutes on their guys. And so Tennessee, if they can get out and run, maybe some of those 3-point shots won't fall late in the game. So that's another key in the ball game is transition points.
Yeah, I mean, and when if you shoot a lot of 3-pointers, you've also got to be good at getting rebounds out on the perimeter.
Right.
John Hartwell, I got to ask you something. I saw this from you about your women's basketball team, SC Bilderback. We're going to talk about that. And I also want your thoughts about Greg Sankey and the commissioner of the Big Ten making comments before the tournament started. Maybe we need to take away some bids from some of the lesser big schools. And I don't like that. Okay, far be it from to ever call me a socialist or anything like that. I'm a capitalist. But what makes the tournament so special is our good friend Horatio Alger, not Alger, Alger. My dad, Grandbob is listening right now. It's Alger. We love the underdogs. And again, nothing against Greg Sankey. I've met him a few times, talked to him. He's an amiable chap. But I don't like the direction. You've got 363 schools that are eligible to make March Madness. And a lot of these schools don't even have football teams. That's okay. But I love watching basketball, as Vince Ferarra alluded to, Bose alluded to with West Texas and all. I love watching those games, St. Mary's Gales and Gonzaga and the Mountain West. I love watching all these. The Mountain West got 6 bids this year. So that tells me they play pretty good basketball. Your thoughts? Coach, your thoughts on that, and I'll hang up and listen.
Timing is everything. And obviously, Greg got a little bit out over his skis, if you will, in those comments. And he has received a ton of backlash, especially with Oakland's victory over Kentucky and, Yale defeating your Auburn Tigers. That timing could not have been worse for those comments from him.
Correct.
And I do think, I'll just be candid about it. We're one of those schools. Obviously, the SEC and the Big Ten, no disrespect to the ACC and to the Big 12. I mean, they're the engines that drive the train. But come on now, you guys are generating a ton of money on your own, over and beyond the television contract, stuff like that, apparel sales, all of those things. Let's not, all of us are in this together at differing levels, but let's not let greed blow up the whole thing. And I do think that is a very much unified stance from a lot of people in college athletics right now. And I'll say it, not just as an administrator at one of those group of 5 schools, but I'll say it as a general fan too. I think even the fans of some of those institutions in those 2 leagues are saying, come on now, we can't blow this whole thing up. Absolutely. Could the Big Ten and the SEC go and play their own game right now? Yeah, but I promise you, go try to get a television contract for March Madness with those two leagues. It would be good. It wouldn't be great because, like you said, part of the mystique, part of what has made March Madness so great over so many years, was Jim Valvano in the pit and, NC State. When you can go just down the list, San Diego State making the Final Four or the championship game last year. There's so many of those stories that are part of the mystique and the allure and quite literally the value of March Madness. So let's not destroy that.
Yeah, and let's talk about your women's team in the WNIT. That's exactly where I'm going with this. That's a big deal. All sports are local. You hear politics is all local. But yeah, it's what's important to your region, your district. But this is why we love college sports, because most all of these student athletes, D1, 2, 3, they're not going to be in the pros. And if they are, it's just a few years. So most of them in their mid-20s, do you have enough money right then to retire and not work the rest of your life? No. Talk about your women's team. I think that's a cool story because you went and found this coach. And you've also got 10 years experience at Ole Miss. You were there at Troy. You were at Georgia State. You've seen Utah State 7.5 years. I mean, you've seen it from a lot of different angles. So when you speak, you have a lot of credibility.
Yeah, a ton of credit to Missy Bilderback, and it's interesting because we've seen this play out over the last couple of weeks, especially with a couple of schools who opted to turn down NIT or WNIT bids. And I think a lot of it's perspective and where you stand with your program. Are you a program on the rise with a lot of young players? Are you disappointed and, gosh, I don't think my players are going to play in an NIT or a WNIT?
Yeah.
The opportunity to compete. You can peel back all the layers of transfer portal and name, image, and likeness. All those things. Kids want to play. At the end of the day, kids want to play, and I think the opportunity at postseason. I mean, we had won 10 Division I games in the last 5 years in women's basketball. We won our 21st game last night, advanced to the Elite Eight in the WNIT. We'll find out after tomorrow night who we play in that Elite Eight. But it's, again, Missy Bilderback coming from Jones Community College, spent 8 years there as the head coach, won 84% of her games. And people say, well, gosh, how'd you know she was going to make the transition from junior college to collegiate? I said, if you win 84% of your games over that period of time, you can coach. I don't care what level it is.
Yeah.
Obviously, you got to go get players, which she's done, but we're really proud of that group, with what they have done. Hey, I want to go back to Vince's just real quick, because I know we spent some time on this Creighton, Tennessee game. To me, out of all 8 of the Sweet 16 games, probably the most intriguing on paper matchup there is to me. I mean, you've got 2 great coaches, Rick Barnes, Greg McDermott. The matchup between Connect and Shireman and Kiltbrenner. There are a lot of interesting storylines here. I probably watched Creighton play more than a lot of people. Stephen Ashworth, their starting point guard. Stephen played 3. He was a 1,000-point scorer at Utah State and transferred there. Actually has another year of eligibility left. But I go back to a point I made last week, and this ties back to NIL. When you are an institution like Marquette or Creighton or even UConn to some extent, although UConn does have football, but not at the level where they're paying out millions and millions of dollars of NIL, don't think that's not a benefit for that institution or that program to be able to have their men's basketball program as the bell cow for NIL, because that can be the priority for their collective is for their men's basketball program.
Yeah, look, and Vince, I just got the thing. You've got to go do something with the station there. And then I'm going to go to Bo because I've got a lot of questions for Bo as well. But Vince, thank you so much for joining us this morning. I know you've got a big schedule. Always love having you on. We'll be glued to the TV. Audrey's like going, she picked Tennessee in her bracket, surprisingly, to win the national championships. I mean, I'm not surprised, but we're going to be watching that game tomorrow night as the Jesuits, not the Dominicans, but the Jesuits of Creighton, the Blue Jays, come out there. But let people know what you want to say, how they can follow you and keep up with all your great work. And again, thank you so much for sharing your time with us.
Yeah, appreciate you guys. Always fun to be on with you. And John, Bo, Brendan, really always fun to be on with you guys. And doing the morning show from here this morning and tomorrow, and then doing reports for not only our station, every one of our shows, but our news talk station and our country station as well. So a lot of airtime from here, but lots
you
of
are busy. God, I love it.
I don't have baseball duty this week or spring football practice or anything like that, but we're still talking about it. But yeah, you can follow me on all the social. Sports Animal 991. We'll have a lot of posts, and then on our website, podcasts are available there of our shows, and we'll have videos and all that kind of fun stuff. Maybe even some reaction to a win going to the Elite Eight, or maybe even if they win on Sunday. Beyond that, some special video and interviews of that. So one game at a time, but we'll be here for it. 991thesportsanimal.com is the website.
Go Vols! Big Orange. What did he do? Scored. Touchdown, Tennessee. I love it. Thank you, man. We'll see you next week. Have a safe trip.
Thank you.
God, I get so jacked. I get so excited talking to all these people on this show. I mean, it is so much fun. And this is what John said. And Bo, y'all know the stories. You think about just when you go around the country at the tournament, people call these upsets. They're not upsets. It's you haven't done your homework and you don't stay up late at night and watch these games. Bo Carter, you get to meet everybody, and you get to talk to them. You're at these events. You help make them happen. Along the lines of what John said in response to what Greg Sankey, the SEC commissioner, the Big Ten commissioner, said, I'm with John. He agreed with me. I agree with him. What are your thoughts about taking away bids from smaller conferences, or what they call smaller, maybe even basketball-only schools, whatever? What are your thoughts on that?
Boy, great points. And John, congratulations on WNIT. What a way for Missy Bilderback to start a career, man. That's hopefully NCAA next year.
That is awesome.
But no, it's Rob, it's kind of crazy times. The NIL transfer portal, we're preaching to the choir here, but I guess the SEC and Big Ten are trying to at some point start the 60 or 64 team super conference. And I split with the NCAA, so to speak, on football. So we'll have to. And the NCAA's got this long-term contract with CBS for the for the March Madness Final Four, ESPN with the women. So we're gonna have a nice meeting of the minds here very soon. But you've got to include. I totally agree. John Hartwell and Vince made the points. You got to include the St. Peter's, the teams that just come out of nowhere. Creighton would not be in a Power 5 mode if that happens at some point with the tournaments or anything, baseball, you name it. So I think common sense should prevail here. Is all I'm going to say.
And pigs get fat, hogs get slaughtered, and we keep going down this route. What I'm saying here is that's a stock market term, but you're going to drive people away if they feel like that it's just favoring a handful of schools. And people will say it's all about the money, okay? Well, dealing with people who have a lot of money, I can tell you what a lot of them have told me over the years. When we had 4 or 5 kids and we didn't have a whole lot of money, man, our life was so much less complicated. Now we got all this money, everybody's nice to us, but we don't know who really likes us, And we got to be careful. The SEC has a big platform, and the Big Ten does, because they've got about 75%, wouldn't y'all say, of the TV sets in America live in the geographical footprint. But I'll ask y'all this 3-tiered question, John Hartwell. When was the last time you went to the mall or to the store and said to your wife, I've got to go buy a radio, an alarm clock, or a camera because it's all on this thing. And ESPN in the last 7 or 8 years has probably lost. They had about 100 million subscribers. They're down to about 72 million now. But guess what? ESPN Plus has about 28 million subscribers. It's all mobile, but people, they want to watch. John, I'm going to put you and Bo on an NCAA committee with a stand-up table around top with no chairs. That means we'll get stuff done in about 10 minutes. What would you want to change about what is happening in the basketball tournament? Reviews, you mentioned that. Kind of expand on that because it's painful, these reviews. And in the football games, it's as painful as a doctor having to step in and out of the room while you're at the dentist getting a root canal, and he comes back and he probes the wrong tooth when he comes back because he's getting distracted. It's a momentum killer.
Yeah, it is. And again, I mean, I don't want to harp all over officiating or reviews, but when we're now reviewing, in the final 2 minutes, these reviews of, an out of bounds call and all, you're immediately going to see whoever the call went against, you're going to see them go like that. They want the play reviewed. So that slows things down. You've got, was it a regular foul? Was it a flagrant one? Was it a flagrant two? I mean, there are just so many things that we're stopping play for that just interrupts the flow of the game. And I'm picking on basketball, but it's football, it's baseball reviews, it's, softball. And, the great thing is everybody's got this technology in their facilities now where you can get, every angle there is to see it. But gosh, are we going to totally take the human element out of the game? And to me, that's part of it. The officiating is part of it. And, let's switch to football for a minute. Steve Shaw and his group do a great job of going through the process of training for officials, of them coming up through various leagues. There's got to be some human element to it. And I think we are sacrificing trying to get every call exactly right for interruptions in the flow of the game. And we've all talked about, regardless of the sport, decreasing the amount of time because, hey, let's just say this. We all suffer in our various forms from ADD. We want to consume news. Now it's not, Walter Cronkite or, Dan Rather, whoever. You're going to sit down and watch 30 minutes of news. You want in 15 seconds everything that's happening in the world today. And that's the way we have all been trained. So when games have 4 or 5 minute, stoppages of play to review these calls, it's got to, we've got to do something about it.
Well, Shoney down in Valdosta, reviews give more slots to run advertising. Good luck with that one. I mean, but I'm with you. And we have Steve Shaw on this show a good bit. Really impressed with him. And, he lives in Birmingham. He didn't want to move to Indianapolis, a nice city, I might add. One of the cleanest cities. It's like a European capital. All the monuments and Circle Center, Mall, and all that stuff. But I think with officiating in football, they've gotten better. And you hear Bo Carter and John Hartwell about the number of targeting calls. I think there's one every 5.2 games or something. They're not that many. We've cut way down on it. I've learned more than I ever knew about injuries and targeting and protocols, concussions and safety. Dana Marquez, my friend who was a director of equipment operations at Auburn from 2005 till this summer, but he's still working there, has his office there in Auburn at the complex. But he's got helmetfitting.com, Carbon Tech shoulder pads. They're doing presentations now that are so far ahead of what mere mortals might say, but you're going to be hearing a lot about what they're doing for safety. Bo Carter, the advertising part of it. I hear you talk with a lot of people on different shows I hear you on about the contracts, the TV contracts, and all that. Over $1 billion is what they say that March Madness makes.
Yes.
Next question. if we go from 64 or 68, okay, somebody, and I'm ADHD and OCD, John, so I'm really crazy. I forgot the question I was asking. No, seriously.
Yeah.
No, Bo, I got to ask you now. The 60, when they say it's so that Joe Lenardi and that Pomeroy, first four in, last four in, first four out. What in the Slim Pickens is in me? What in the wide world of sports is going on here, boys? And what is that? I mean, it's so annoying. It's tantamount to someone scratching their fingernails on the chalkboard while they're giving a lecture about the Pythagorean theory. Do you have something against Pythagoras?
Yeah, that's right. No, Rob, as you mentioned, there've been, I've seen deals where they've talked about a 96 or even a 128 NCAA bracket or whatever, too, which, and they said we just had an extra week. I know John's in the position, too, where if you're traveling, or you might miss, and the spring break figures into this a little bit, but you might miss like 2 or 3 weeks of classes. Same problem that might be coming up with the college football playoff. Man, hopefully do like Navy and the Service Academy, bring tutors with you.
You could do that.
We were at a Navy basketball tournament one time, and I actually stumbled into a room, and there were 20 kids or 18 kids in there with uniforms on, with a proctor taking a final exam or whatever during late mid-December at a non-conference basketball tournament. So there's so many moving parts to this thing. It's just I don't know. I hope that Charlie Baker or Greg Sankey, the power brokers, can figure with the advice of John Hartwell, can figure something out.
And I'm going to get William Halliday, Billy Ray Valentine, the intern sophomore for the Auburn Plainsman, and I know you've got. And let there be light. If you can get any more light on you, we look like you're in the witness protection program. All we need now is the voice going, I was not there when the people were destroyed. But anyway, William, we're talking about this NCAA tournament. Philip Marshall, great writer, 55 plus years, one of the old Sky writers. His dad, legendary, Benny Marshall, sports editor of the Birmingham News. Philip said in one of his columns on Auburn Undercover last week, and I'm going to throw this at you, William. William, that's a guy that you need to go interview and meet. You talk about David Housel and the people I mentioned to you, back booth at Chappie's. Go talk to Philip Marshall. He's one of the finest people. Y'all know him. Bo and John, I'm sure you've met him. He's as good as it gets. He said, hey, I'm okay with going to 96 teams. I'm going to throw this at you, William. You give the top 32 teams a bye. Let the other 64, hash it out. Then maybe we'll get rid of that annoying first four in, last four in. Just the bubble. Okay, William, what do you think about that? Going to 96 and giving the top 32 a bye. Maybe it adds an extra week. So be it.
I've heard a lot of talk about just expanding the tournament, and to be honest, I've even heard some people say expand it to 112 teams. Just get everybody in there. I'm not, to be honest, as big of a fan of expanding it. I feel like with the college football playoff, we needed to expand it because, it's only 4 teams, whereas college basketball, you're already getting a ton of teams in there, and I feel like everybody gets their chance. For the teams that didn't get in, I mean, that's just the luck of the draw for me personally. Was there some problems with seating? For sure. And everything else with that, but I don't really have a problem with the tournament and how it's formatted. I know other people do, but I've liked how it's been for the past few years. And you only really just have 3 weeks of college basketball, with March Madness and everything. And that's all I need as a college basketball fan. So.
Yeah. Well, how are your brackets holding up? Your final 4
not
teams?
Great. Okay. That's not great for me, but you know what? My Tennessee Vols are in the Sweet 16. That's what, for me, it's a good thing, but yeah.
Well, John Hartwell, you talked about this, the money. Over $1 billion is what they make. And I look at brands. The Wall Street Journal guys came out with the branding when it was announced that Texas and OU were coming in to the SEC July of 2021. At that time, Texas had the number one brand at $1,114,000,000. Number 2 was Alabama at $1,008,000,000. Number 3 was Georgia at $972 million. Number 4 was Oklahoma at $938 million, and number 5 was Auburn at $872 million. I'm going to guess that all those brands have gone up. So now we talked about the basketball. Let's switch to football. We're going from 4 to 12. Does that automatically translate to $450 million with a 14 playoff to do the gazindas? 3 times $450 million is $1,350,000,000. That money trickle down economics. Doesn't that trickle down to every school, D1, D2, D3? I mean, is this a good thing? And will it be that much money? Will it be more?
Well, here's the interesting component of this, Rob, that a lot of people don't understand. This is, whereas the CFP is kind of its own deal. I mean, all that money stays within football. But the NCAA men's basketball tournament, there are so many offshoots of those dollars. Yes, the 360 Division I schools all get a benefit out of that to some extent. But the Division I men's basketball tournament funds a lot of the championships at the Division II and Division III level. So it is, while participation only relates to Division I, the resources that are generated from that tournament help fund almost everything that the NCAA is doing.
Yeah. All right. So, and John, I know I just put the thumb on there. Not that I like that you have to leave at 8:50. I'm saying I know you've got meetings and stuff that you've got to do. But when you look at, and John, so I guess it's about 48 after. Say this real quick, how people can follow you, reach out to you, and support what you're doing at ULM, because you're a turnaround specialist. You're like a great book I read, Leadership Lessons in Navy SEALs, the Cannon brothers. One was a 22-year member of SEAL teams. The other is a Fortune 500 CEO turnaround specialist. By the way, a little bit of trivia that only John Hartwell and I know. Of the Fortune 500 CEOs in America, more than half of them have their CPA. So, John, you're a rare bird, but the Builderback, I love your woman's coach's name, Missy Builderback, but the building job that you're doing there at ULM is a perfect example of, if you get the right person in there who's not afraid and worried about hurting people's feelings, but about getting an ROI. By the way, have you checked out donor advised funds for fundraising? Are you looking at those?
Yeah, absolutely. Every avenue to get an angle to help, it's not a secret. There's a clear correlation between investment in and success output in college athletics. And, I knew when I took this job, we were near the bottom of FBS in terms of that, but, doing a great job. Missy, obviously, sports marketing 101, you can do all you want to. Winning puts butts in seats and gets people to open their checkbook too. She's done a great job of that. Our Bryant Vincent, our head football coach, doing a great job. His first spring practices, going on right now. That culminates on April 20th in our spring game there. And so a lot of exciting things going on. We've got the Coastal Carolina Chanticleers coming to town this afternoon, a little 3-game baseball series. And just as a lot of leagues do with Easter being on Sunday, a lot of weekend series that are normally Friday, Saturday, Sunday have been moved up a day. So Thursday, Friday, Saturday. My Twitter handle, you can follow me on Twitter, John_Hartwell, ULMWarhawks.com. I just mentioned one other thing that's really cool. I enjoyed this last night. I get home from our women's basketball, game where we are advancing to the Elite Eight in the WNIT now and turn on ESPN. And I see NIT basketball going on. I see Virginia Commonwealth playing at the University of Utah. And Rob, you know me, I'm not one to boast about accomplishments or things that we've been able to accomplish in my career. But I turn it on and I watch Craig Smith, who's the head coach at the University of Utah, coaching against Ryan Odom, who's the head coach at Virginia Commonwealth, and just think back, was fortunate enough to hire Craig at Utah State. He was there 3 years, advanced to 3 NCAA tournaments. Hire Ryan on the backside of that. He goes to an NIT and to an NCAA tournament. So, people ask me, hey, why do you do what you do? It's things like that reasons why I do what I do.
Well, that's why you're so damn good. Love having you on the show. Appreciate it. I know you wish that you could be at Winslow's right now or at Constantine's or maybe down in Orange Beach at Doc's Seafood up off Canal. But that'll be here soon. But, John, before you leave, give me your Final Four and who's going to win this thing. Now, we're going to be talking with you next Thursday. But who do you think is going to come out of this weekend as the 4 best?
Hey, here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna come down. I'm gonna give you today and tomorrow's who I think, and I do think location matters in a couple of things. Clemson, Arizona. It's in LA. You're gonna have a huge Arizona contingent there. I think Arizona wins that game. UConn, San Diego State, and Boston. That's basically a home game for UConn. UConn wins that. I'm gonna go a little bit out on a limb here. I'm gonna say Alabama beats North Carolina in LA today. And the 4th game of today, I'm going to say Iowa State beats Illinois. And, you talk about really good coaches who you don't hear a ton about. TJ Otzenberger at Iowa State, outstanding coach.
God, yes.
Let's fast forward to tomorrow real quick. NC State, Marquette. I'll go Marquette. Purdue, Gonzaga. I'll go with the Boilermakers. Duke, Houston. That's going to be a really intriguing game, but it's going to be more of a home game for Houston, going 3 hours up the road to Dallas. I'll go with the Houston Cougars there. And the final game of the night, I know we talked a lot about this. I got to go Creighton Blue Jays over Tennessee.
Ooh, that's gonna be tough. All right, and then you're going to be back on next Thursday as we head into Final Four weekend. So lots to talk about. But John, happy Easter, Good Friday, Holy Week. Love having you on here. Glad to see you're recovering well, and always appreciate your input. It's solid gold. Okay.
Hey, Rob, Bo, and William, great as always to share the panel with such an esteemed group, and you guys, happy Easter to all of y'all as well.
All right, thanks so much. All right, love this panel, and Bo and William. Golly, you think about North Carolina and Alabama playing in LA. I can't help but say it. Lower Alabama. And I mean, I throw it, Bo, Alabama, they throw up a lot of threes, and I'm gonna throw it. I'm gonna start bouncing this back and forth, sort of rapid fire to you and William. North Carolina, can Alabama beat North Carolina? Alabama's good. Last year they were built. They were number 1 seed overall. Got taken out by San Diego State. 3rd Sweet 16 in the last 4 years. What's going to get them out of this?
I tell you what, I agree with John. I think Alabama with that good run and gun style, hey, 102 to 100 games, 109 to 92. Yeah. That's my kind of basketball, Rob. I was at Oregon Mississippi State when Bob Boyd caused the slowdown at a 26 to 19 win over a loss to Georgia. 34 to 32 lost to I think Alabama, or he hastened the shot clock development there in the middle 1980s. But you just love it. I mean, when you play that kind of basketball and you've got the talent they do, including Sears, who's from beautiful Muscle Shoals, Alabama,
the Quad Cities,
one of the academies. But the Quad Cities there. But I think they've got a chance against anybody. And Nate Oates has proven to be one of the more brilliant coaches in college basketball. So I kind of agree with John, although I don't know. I think Tennessee might beat Creighton because they play a little bit better defense, and Rick Barnes is tournament savvy. So we'll see how it all pans out. But I think Alabama's got a great chance against North Carolina.
William, let's give your picks. Tennessee, Creighton, and try not to be, I know you grew up a Tennessee fan. You're in Auburn now. And then Alabama and North Carolina. Let's start with Tennessee first.
Well, contrary to popular belief, I'm not going with Tennessee in this one, mainly because, yes, they had their bad shooting game last week, so it could kind of switch from last year. But, I see Dalton Connect and Zakai Ziegler having a better game than they did this past week. But, Creighton, they have a three-headed monster, starting with their, I think Baylor Shireman is his name, Trey Alexander, and then there's also like the center who's really good, 7'1". But those three average over 15 points a game. Their offense is super good, can spread you out, shoot the three. Their defense is also good. They're top 25, or I think they're number 11 in offensive efficiency and 23 in defense efficiency. That's a better number, honestly, all around than Tennessee is. I like Creighton in this one, and I think they could honestly upset Purdue in the next round and get to their first Final Four.
Alabama, North Carolina.
Yep, Alabama, North Carolina. Again, I think both with Tennessee and Alabama, if they want to pull off their wins, they both have to have good shooting games, especially with Alabama because their offense is super good. If they can hit 15 threes, they win the game. And they're definitely capable of doing that. But North Carolina, I've got moving on just because I don't think Nate Oates can get past that Sweet 16 hurdle yet. Especially with this not being as one of his talented teams as previous years. I think if the year to do it, if he was last year and he didn't. I think just with the teams that they've played so far, they haven't really had a tough matchup yet, to be honest, compared to Tennessee, who played Texas in the second round. So I don't know if they'll be prepared to play in North Carolina, considering that, early on in the season when they had their non-conference schedule, they played 5 quad one games in the non-conference, and I'm pretty sure they lost all of them or something like that. But, I just don't trust them against big Power 5 non-conference opponents.
Yeah, and Armando Bacot, 7 or 8 games now in the tournament with 15 rebounds or more. Only one other basketball player has ever done that in the NCAA tournament. Bo Carter, remember Artis Gilmore. That's who it was.
Yeah.
I mean, just this thing. All right. So let me say this. Get out today, the Vitamin Shop, Olive Branch in Oxford, Mississippi. 2 locations. Our good friends Matt Price, Justin Ross, proud to have them sponsors of this show. All the supplements, probiotics, pre-workout, active workout, post-workout, shot blocks, goo, energy, meat sticks. They've got people there that actually know what they're doing. I know it's a novel concept, but they will get you the right products at the right time at a fair price. The Vitamin Shop. Also, Chad House, the great folks at ECS House Industries. It's planting time, folks. The last 5 weeks now, crop dusters moving around, the big plows out in the fields. They make the better roller, the pulverizer, the better chopper. They also make the aerators for the catfish farms. Check them out on the web, ECSHouseIndustries.com. And I'm wearing a Mallard shirt made by Acres Down South. Great company. You can get these shirts. They make the SEC logos, shirts, nice polos with that moisture wicking. They also make them for the ACC schools and the Big 12. More schools being added by the day. All of our sponsors are on our website at sidelines.live. Proud to have them. And Bo, I want to throw something at you. I'm mentioning, North Carolina. We're mentioning these teams. San Diego State gets a rematch with UConn. Last year, UConn in the regular season lost 5 straight games at one point. They go on and win the national championship. This year, they only lost 3. I don't think they've lost but once since January 1st. Any chance San Diego State gets them this time? Because I think Danny Hurley has the best program in college basketball, and UConn, since 1998, has won 5 national championships. That's 2 more than North Carolina, 2 more than Duke, 3 more than Kansas, and 4 more than the Kentucky Wildcats.
It's pretty amazing, Rob, as you mentioned. And boy, it's always, even a year later, it's always tough to win in these rematches. As you remember some of the different context or whatever, but you remember these teams that played in regular season, the bowls, Nebraska, Oklahoma, Alabama, LSU in football. So believe me, San Diego State's got the incentive. I'm sure they've shown tapes of that game 400 times in the last 2 weeks. So they'll be ripping and roaring. And again, they've got great. Both teams have great athletes, and just depends on the bounce of the ball.
And look, we're just going to go a few more minutes out of mercy for our executive producer, Brendan Martin, who is not on with us now. He's kind of like the Wizard of Oz behind the curtain producing. But William Halliday, about to wrap up your sophomore year as a student at Auburn with the Plainsmen. What's the biggest story takeaway up to this point that you're writing about this NCAA basketball tournament?
I think the biggest story, to be honest, that I would write about if I could would be about NC State and DJ Burns. DJ Burns, started at Tennessee, and he was a lot skinnier back then, but now he's added like 50 pounds, and
all muscle.
A lot of muscle. That's what we'll call it.
Dinner muscle.
He's an interesting player just because of how big he is, can back you down in the post. Score over you, averaging 20 points this tournament. I think that's the biggest story into this, tournament time. And then, also something that happened just recently, KD Johnson for Auburn, what people are talking about back at Auburn is how he entered the portal. I think with the recruiting class that Bruce Pearl is coming in with next year, a few guards that are top 40, I think, in the class or something like that. I think KD is worried about getting playing time or just, not getting as much playing time as he'd like. With Bruce Pearl, he plays pretty much all his guys 15, 20 minutes, and everybody kind of gets their share of playing time. So I don't really know what the problem is with playing time, but, sad to see KD move on. Maybe he decides to come back, but we'll see what goes on in the future with Bruce Pearl and what he does in the transfer portal.
Yeah, and I will always be thankful for KD Johnson out of Chatham, Virginia. Started his career at Georgia, went to Hartgrave Military Academy, and what he did for Auburn. And the way I look at it, Bo Carter, in the portal, if you get your degree and you're a graduate and you go somewhere for your last year, I think you can still come back and be considered an LSU man, an Ole Miss man, an Auburn man. But I love KD Johnson's passion and enthusiasm, like Dylan Cardwell. And Bo Carter, you are so blessed, and we're blessed to have you on the show. You've gotten to know a lot of players over the years. And William, you want to be like Bo Carter as you go in this career. You text the guy at 11 at night, 6 in the morning. Hey, can you help with something? He's always there. And I think I've got you connected with Bo Carter. Build these relationships. Keep your top 10, in college, your classmates, in your major, whatever. Keep them close to you, okay? Bo Carter, what is your biggest takeaway as we wrap up this show from the tournament so far? Maybe more than one takeaway about this tournament. And you can always change that next week when you're on the show. So, but what now?
Well, obviously the Oakland and the Yale wins are just, that's what makes them, the March Madness or whatever. Charles Barkley smoking his victory cigar at halftime for and I tell you, very, very much you talked about Jack Nicklaus being a gracious runner-up to Arnold Palmer and Gary Player many times, and Barkley handled it with great class. He's gotten tons of comments about that too. William, be glad you're a fellow Auburn alumnus at this point. But no, I always love. I think this year 3 of the top, maybe all 4 of the top seeds are in the Sweet 16 after what last year was the first time in 40 years that no top seeds made it in. So, and watch out for Kelvin Sampson. He's got those Houston Cougars playing well, and they had that. Rob, you might have. I hope you were there. You watched on television. 195 overtime game in an old Southwest Conference matchup with Texas A&M. So it's it's March Madness, and we mentioned March Sadness for
it really is, man. But I love this tournament, and William, you're growing so much as a writer. You're getting more comfortable in your role, coming on the show, and you're going to be, every time I like to ask that question, what are your takeaways? What are the stories that you're writing about? And it's, what I find, it's usually not about the number one team. It's about those teams like NC State and like Mr. Burns, the businessman on The Simpsons. Yes, think about that. No, Burns is a taller version of Charles Barkley in a lot of ways. Charles, 6'3 3/4", 315 probably when he was at Auburn. We were there. They listed him at 270, 6'7",
I think Charles
270.
could jump, though. DJ Burns could jump. So.
Yeah, but Burns is not – I don't think his vertical jump is, is 45 or anything like that. But they're fun to watch, okay? So, look, do yourself a favor, everybody. Do something great for people. It's Holy Week. Tomorrow is Good Friday. We'll be back on tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. For our Good Friday show. A lot of people will be off. But whether you're a Gator, a Tiger, Razorback, whatever, the SEC, we appreciate you being part of SEC Sports Network and SECU. For our executive producer, Brendan Martin, son of Buddy the Magnificent, Bo Carter, John Hartwell, Vince Ferarra, William the Intern Halliday. Remember, make something great happen. We'll see you tomorrow. Smash the subscribe button because we are out of here.
In a perfect world, you'd set a health goal and results would happen overnight. In this world, the real world, it takes time, dedication, and the right support to achieve your best self. The Vitamin Shop's health enthusiasts are here to make sure you're not wasting a single moment on the wrong supplements. From the highest quality sports nutrition and superfoods to the most sought-after trends, you'll find a huge variety of science-backed solutions for every goal. And the people to help guide you along the path to greatness.
Unbelievably, every 2 minutes in our communities, a child is either bought or sold for sex. I am Ari Dickey, board member for the Nashville Anti-Human Trafficking Coalition. Join me and millions of others in our fight against human trafficking and for its victims by helping to educate the most vulnerable among us, our middle and high school students. Go to nhtcoalition.org, become a partner, and help keep our families safe, because none of God's children are for sale.